If I think, oh, it's season. Since season is here, I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna play games. I'm not gonna performance train, I'm not gonna keep getting all these other things in. You are going to lose strength, you are going to lose size, you're gonna lose speed, you're gonna decrease your vertical. All of the things that you don't want to happen will start to happen. In this video, we're going to be talking about time management and how it pertains to sports performance and overall performance training, the ways that you can navigate this to maximize it for yourself. So as an athlete, you obviously have things that you have to do, structures, practice schedules, workout schedules, game times, all that stuff that you have to manage and also accelerate all your abilities through that process. So very simply put, if you are an athlete and you are only doing the practices that your teams hold as well as the games, and that is the extent of your training for your sport, then I want to be the first one to tell you that you are doing it all wrong and you really need to reevaluate what it is that you're trying to get from athletics. And with that being said, if your goal is not to take your game all the way to the highest level possible, then disregard that and do what you want to do. But if you're an athlete and you're really wanting to maybe play, if you're in middle school to high school to the college to the pro level, whatever level you're at, if you want to play at the next level up and you're only putting in the bare minimum effort, which is practice and games, then you need to reevaluate what it is you're doing and what it is that you want to achieve from it. But for those of you who already have that figured out and you are doing things on your own, you get to the next step of the puzzle, which is figuring out how to manage exactly what you're trying to do with the time that you're given. We can't create more time in a day, we have to maximize the time that we have. So when we're looking at our schedule, when we're breaking down our schedule, it's important that we get in the things that we need to and we cut out the things that we don't. With that being said, everyone has, I refer to it as a totem pole of importance. You have your thing at the top and your thing at the bottom. You have to structure that based on your exact needs. Give you a perfect example. If you're an athlete and you've been playing a sport all your life and you're really good at the sport, you have a crazy high IQ for that sport, meaning when you go play, you have the sport down. You don't have to think too much about the moves you're gonna make or how you're gonna make them. If that's you, then getting more reps in games, whether it be one-on-one, two-on-two, whatever it is, that might not be the top thing in your totem pole because you might be good to go on that. Whereas if you've done that, but you're lacking a little bit in the performance area, you might put performance higher on your totem pole. If you haven't played the sport at all, like myself for example, I didn't start playing competitive basketball until my junior year of high school. So performance and physically, I was fine. But basketball IQ and repetitions, I was significantly behind, which means my top of the totem pole is get shots up, work on my ball handling, get game time. That's what I had to do. Those were the top pillars of my totem pole. And then later down the list was my strength and performance training and things of that nature, right? So we have to come up with that totem pole that gives us the accurate representation of what we need to put our focus in, and then we can build our schedule off that totem pole. So you need to go in and decide what is most important for me, how do I get that in, and then how do I structure my schedule thereon and moving forward. There is a science that comes into play. I'll speak from my end when it comes to sports performance training. The skill of basketball we use as an example. If you're good at dribbling, or in soccer, you're good at dribbling a soccer ball, in tennis, you're really good at hitting the ball. If you're good at those things, you have a muscle memory that kind of sticks around with those things because it is a point A to point B movement that is creating that, right? With that being said, if we look at it on the flip side and we look at performance training, so what I do, you lose strength quickly. Whether you have the movement down or not, you can do the same movement for a squat. The weight at which you do it is the variable, and that variable changes. That variable changes a lot quicker than variables when it comes to the skill of your sport. If you've hit a volleyball a million times and you take 3 weeks off, you're not gonna forget how to hit the volleyball. If you're a really heavy weightlifter and you take 2 months off and then you go back, you're not gonna lift the same amount of weight. So with one, we can maintain and carry that skill on. With the other, we're going to lose that skill. When we're making our totem pole, we have to find the things that are non-negotiables, we have to have those things in. If you don't have muscle memory built up for your sport, then you probably need to make sure that you are getting repetitions in to get that muscle memory. If you're not that strong, well then you need to make sure that you're building up your strength. If you're not that fast, then you need to make sure that you're building up your speed. And the second that you take time and you neglect it, and you don't do those things, you're going to start to see regression. You reach a level of mastery, we'll call it. Can't do this physically, but you can do this with specific movements. You might have mastery in the way that you perform a vertical jump, meaning you have a flow to your jump and everything where you'll be able to keep being able to jump high for a long time, but you're using more of the muscle memory and the flow of your jump over the strength that comes along with it. Whereas if you think the strength is gonna carry you and you take a long time off, your strength is going to go away. I hope that makes sense. So when we're making our decisions on how we structure things, if I think, oh, it's season. Since season is here, I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna play games. I'm not gonna performance train, I'm not gonna keep getting all these other things in. If you do those things, you are going to lose strength, you are going to lose size, you're gonna lose speed, you're gonna decrease your vertical. All of the things that you don't want to happen will start to happen. So does that mean we need to train nonstop, year round, no days off, no breaks? Not at all. But that does mean that we need to be strategic about how we do it. If you think that, let's say, take where we're at here, school basketball starts beginning of October, ends at the beginning of March. If you go that entire time and you don't do any strength training, or you think, oh, I'll just do some over break and be cool, you're probably not gonna be able to maintain the strength that you had. And if you think that losing strength won't affect vertical and speed, well, it will, right? And not getting repetitions of sprinting and jumping, on the other hand, is okay, because you're in game and you're jumping in game and you're sprinting in game. So it's not that we have to do all these crazy plyometrics and things like that. You're probably getting enough of that in game. But are we getting the strength demands? Well, absolutely not. We're not necessarily maxing out, but we're not pushing our body to the limits when it comes to strength and moving things through muscle work, hypertrophy, or strength, right? We're doing plyometrics, more bounce explosive. So when we're looking at what we need to do, we need to structure our schedule in a way that allows us to still reap the rewards and not lose any time or progress. I have a lot of athletes that I will see and they'll go hard in the summer. Like, this summer, I'm transforming everything I do. And they do. And they do. They come in, they go the whole summer, they transform, they make crazy gains. But school starts and things come up and they get busy and then they can't, and then this comes up and that comes up and then this season and then it's here. And then the next summer comes around and guess what? This summer I'm gonna transform. It's the same story over. And the thing that I hate is I look at it and I'm like, man, if you would have just realized that you had the opportunity right there, you just had to keep it. It was just a matter of maintaining at that point. Maintaining is much easier than gaining. If we can maintain, we're chilling. Gaining is a little bit more difficult. So if you maintained what you had throughout the whole year, which is just little bits of workouts throughout the year to make sure, not saying once a month, but if we're once a week getting things in just to fine tune, if we have a week off or 2 weeks off, that's fine. But in the grand scheme of things, if we are making sure that we're maintaining, then we never have to go back and gain the stuff that we already had. I mean, I've done this with my fitness as a whole as well, and I wouldn't recommend it. You need to keep the things you have so that way you can just keep building off of it. The athletes that are really successful are the ones that don't regress and then get better, regress and then get better. That is not the slope you want. You want the straight trajectory of building and gaining over time. So, where do we go from here? What do you do from here? You need to write down everything. If you need an example, you have in-game, you have out of game, but sport specific. If you are out of game and you need to work on your hitting and you're a baseball player, that's what I'm talking about here. Shooting as a soccer player, not something you're doing in game, but you're doing it out of game, right? So you have in game, you have out of game, sport specific. You gotta have practice in there as well, which some of these are non-negotiable. And then you have out of game, out of sport specific. When I say that, vertical, for example, isn't necessarily sport specific. You have your specific vertical for volleyball or your max approach jump for basketball. Yeah, those are sport specific, but vertical isn't necessarily specific to one sport. It's generic across the whole thing. Just like conditioning isn't specific to soccer. It's generic and you need to be conditioned regardless of the sport that you play. So you need to put all of those things in. You have games, you have practice, and then on top of that, oftentimes you have club, which will combine with our games and practice. We'll say that's school, AAU club, whatever it is. And then you have your performance training and then your sports specific training. Create that totem pole, create that order of what am I the best at, what am I the worst at, and then build your totem pole with the things that you're the worst at that you think would probably have the most effect on your game, and those need to go at the top. And then at the bottom of that totem pole is the things that you're already great at and you need to maintain or manage. Sometimes those things that we're already great at need to be midway, and some of them need to be at the top because we have the ceiling to get even better at those things. That is for you to dissect and determine. Regardless, we find the things, we build the totem pole, and then we build our time accordingly. We might have to drop the thing off the bottom of the totem pole to do the thing in the middle, but because we have that structure, we know exactly what we need to drop and what we need to do, okay? Take this into consideration, play it in for yourself, make your totem pole of importance, and then take those things and apply them to your day-to-day and make sure you're not slacking or lacking in any of them. If you go over a month's time without doing anything in your totem pole, you're probably messing up. So we need to reevaluate and figure out what we need to do to make sure that we're getting the gains that we need. That is all I have for you. If you have questions, comment them down below. I would love to help you in any way on your journey, answer any questions that you may have. If you need workouts, if you need anything like that, check out our page. If they're not on our page, find our social media, DM us, and I will send you a free workout program if you hit me up. Thank you for watching. Peace.